Welcome everyone to Marketer of the Month. Today we have a special guest at South by Southwest in Austin, and Jean is coming from Digital Voices, which is an influencer marketing agency, and she's going to give us a much better introduction to what you do and what makes you different.
So thank you for having me. Also, this is the most effortless podcast. So Digital Voices is a global influencer marketing agency that drives growth for brands and really thinks about how influencers can drive results at every stage of the funnel. So is that an awareness campaign where we guarantee impressions results, which is what we do to brands? If we don't hit our impressions numbers, we will either commission more content from our agency fee until we do, or we will give back some of that agency fee to the brand. Well, because our job as your agency partner is to know the data and to get it right. But you can also use influencer marketing to drive kind of app downloads, sales, or lower funnel metrics. And so for that, we set a benchmark every quarter that's like, this is the number, the ROAS number, the CAC number that we should hit. And if we don't hit that, you can terminate your agreement with us. Because again, we should be working towards the same direction. And I think the influencer marketing industry has grown a lot in the last decade, but it has been still the financial model, the commercial model of it doesn't work well for brands. People are either still just randomly taking a percentage of the fee, or they are guaranteeing a minimum number of creators, or they are charging on an hourly rate for their time. And that to me is based on a broken agency model that doesn't think about your agency as a true strategic partner. So that's where Digital Voices comes in a bit differently. I had never worked in advertising before founding the agency.
Wow.
8 years ago this month. So I worked at YouTube for 2 years. And then I saw there was a real gap for how brands can engage with creators, because everyone was just doing Instagram influencer marketing at the time, and they were doing stories, and realized YouTube was where people were watching content for the longest period of time. And also it's driving far more sales than Instagram. So I left YouTube, started my company by myself at 26 with like £500, $700, and just started freelancing and working with brands. And since then, we've kind of expanded to the US. We run campaigns in 36 markets. We have 19 languages on the team. We work with incredible brands like DoorDash, Unilever, Adobe, PepsiCo. We have offices in the US and the UK, and we've built our own tech. But all of that came from that kind of initial investment and initially seeing the gap that brands really don't have an influencer partner who thinks about driving their growth.
That's great. That's a really interesting model. I do agree that the challenge is with figuring out, okay, what is my return on ad spend? And not just, okay, I'm paying my retainer fee, I'm paying my hourly rate, I'm paying the influencer fee, and then it's like, what am I getting out of this? And I think that's a challenge. One of the things that we kind of see a lot of people struggle with is they'll come and they'll be like, okay, I want to do like an affiliate model with an influencer. And I'm like, well, okay, from the influencer standpoint, that's not the best for them because they want to get the money up front. From the brand standpoint, it's good because like, oh, now they're only getting paid for like conversion. So how do you guys see that model?
I mean, talking about forward models, I think the affiliate model is really flawed as well. Um, the affiliate model for brands means that influencer, the only ones who say yes to that will be creators who do not get enough brand deals. And the reason they don't get enough brand deals is because they often don't convert. They also will deprioritize that brand deal. So if they have something that comes in that pays up front, you'll get dropped. Black Friday, how do you think you're going to get cut through?
True, true, true.
It's really great for publishers who produce so much content, but I think for influencers, especially the ones who produce quality content, it's really hard. And also as a brand with affiliates, you don't get the right of approval. So you don't have the right to approve that content to make sure it hits your talking points. You don't often have the right to use that content in paid ads as well, unless you pay a fee. So our model often sits at the upfront fee, at some degree of upfront fee. It can be minimized and there can be an affiliate percentage of spend, but we think if you really want to keep control and to get results that are going to really drive impact for your brand, you should be paying something upfront. I also think it's a privilege for me as a marketer, but also for brands. This is one of the few industries where you can know your spend is going to democratizing and empowering entrepreneurs at a really micro scale. So if you think about SEO, PPC, paid ads marketing, you know your money is going to the big platforms, which is great. But with influencers, we know that approximately 70 cents on every dollar spent with us is going directly to an entrepreneur who would not have existed if this creator economy did not exist. And those entrepreneurs are often people who would never have been entrepreneurs in the past. They can be disabled people making videos at home. They can be single mothers making content that's flexible around having kids. They can be like someone making metalwork in a garage and like creating this content that is insanely good, and that connects with communities in, again, ways media's never done before. So as a brand and a marketer and an agency, there is so much for privilege and power in knowing that your fee goes to building that
Fair,
perfect business.
fair. That's an interesting point. And then do you feel like, so, there's a huge range of possible things you can market. So if someone's selling like chocolate, right, and it's like a $4 transaction size versus someone selling a purse, which is like $1,000 transaction size, the cost per impression you might be willing to pay might be different, per 1,000 impressions might be different. So do you kind of, do influencers come and be like, okay, because they probably don't price based on your product size or your product pricing. They probably price it, okay, we're going to charge $3 for 1,000 impressions, and you got to pay that 3,000. It doesn't matter if you're selling chocolate or you're selling purses. And so then on the brand side, it's like, well, okay, our revenue per 1,000 impressions, if it's a small transaction size, might only be $4. Or like, how do you then manage that situation where you have a cost per 1,000 impressions which is so close to the revenue that they're expecting? How do you
Yeah.
manage that?
And take it even further. Imagine B2B. One of our clients is Microsoft for B2B, for like Microsoft
Yeah.
Teams and for Copilot.
Oh, nice.
Again, for them, it's not the views, it's the cost per transaction. And that transaction might take a year for someone to decide, and they're trying to reach one decision maker. Right. So I think, being honest, this isn't on the influencer. You're right. The influencer charges for the work they do, but influencer pricing is the wild, wild west. Like, I did a poll once on Twitter back before it was X. So when I left YouTube, my job at YouTube was to help creators grow their audience online and grow their YouTube channels. So I had a lot of creator connections. So I released this poll that was like, how do you decide what you charge for a brand deal? And the most popular answer by far, over 1,000 creators answered. And the most popular was, I take the highest amount I've ever been paid and I ask for that amount of money. Juicy. They don't think about day rate, they don't think about the time, they think about what is an industry willing to pay. And this is where, as a brand, you can really easily slip up, because standardizing it isn't going to happen in the next 3 years. Like, this is always going to be kind of a quagmire. As a brand, you can come in through a couple of different approaches. And as an agency founder, you have a couple of different ideas. So firstly, you can look at what is your cost per impression target. So if you're trying to sell chocolate bars, you might think, no one's really going to order this online. I know I want people to go into Target and buy the chocolate bars. I'm going to think about awareness. So then you look at it on a cost per impression basis. Our model is that we guarantee those results. We'll guarantee those impressions. So when we select creators based on, is their audience the right fit? Like, demographics wise, is their audience the right fit? Does their data match? Historically, have they performed well? Is their engagement rate strong? Are they brand safe? Can they produce the creative we need? We will then set their fee based on, we know we've guaranteed this many impressions for the campaign. We have to split the budget this way. So we predict their number of views, and then we pay them a percentage of the fee based on that. And then if they overperform, amazing. And I think brands could do that in-house as well. But then you've got kind of a more complex situation where, say, you're trying to sell like that handbag, and if your target is lower funnel. So if you're trying to sell handbags, trying to sell a car, it's a very different situation. Or you've got the other situation where you're trying to sell a product. So for one of our clients at Surfshark, who are a VPN company, they're a cybersecurity company, they know they need the return on their investment to be a certain amount. So we will set a fee, and then for the first trial, we will see how many sales that drives. If that drives enough sales so that justifies keeping working with them, great, we'll try and sign them up for a long-term deal. They might even be able to raise the price in that long-term deal, because they're like, look, you want to work with us, I'm clearly driving sales. However, if that person, their fee is too high and it doesn't drive the sales, we don't work with them again. Or we'll offer them a lower fee and be like, hey, we'd love to keep working with you. It only makes sense for the brand if it's this big. And so you can do it, and you have to be, I think, willing to test and learn. So you have to have test budget.
Yeah.
But then you can kind of create a rough science out of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So one of the questions I had is like, you're coming in, you're doing, okay, cost per impression, X dollars. You're trying to think through, okay, what's my revenue per impression, 1,000 impressions? Ideally, you're trying to figure out back out as a brand. You're trying to back out. So what's
Revenue per dollar spent.
yeah, revenue per yeah, revenue per dollar spent even better because then you know your yeah for cost yeah. And so then you're saying, well, the challenge is that sometimes it's not immediately trackable. So like if someone posted a video and then they forward the video or they tell someone else, hey, check this out on Microsoft Teams or on Slack or whatever, they tell someone, hey, can you check this out? That doesn't get credit.
Yeah.
Like you saw them on the video, so you don't get credit. So then when you back out, you're like, oh, I made $100 off this or whatever, $1,000 off this ad, but there's like $1,000 of spend that actually happened that I couldn't figure out because it happened not directly.
So I think this is where, again, the influencer marketing industry really needs to step up. And one of the things that I'm really proud of about running Digital Voices, I feel like we're consistently pushing the industry to be better. So we started guaranteeing those views 8 years ago. And now a couple of people have copied it. And I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
keep copying our model, keep stepping up. Yes. One of the things that we do that I think is very different to the industry is we don't think about the traffic in terms of just how it did on the social media platforms. You will have agencies that email brands and they say, hey, we worked together once. And look, that video got 2 million views. And the brand's like, we don't care, it didn't drive sales.
Right.
Whereas our approach is we are going to help the brand maximize the performance of that traffic. So we ask for Google Analytics and Shopify data from our clients. We help with conversion rate optimization. We help design microsites. We help do tracking. We have data, like we have Looker Studio dashboards that track. And you can literally click and customize to see what happened with your traffic. Did they purchase? Did they not? And I think that's where the influencer industry is going to need to, an agency needs to justify their existence. And the way they can do that is by actually being a true brand partner who looks at the real return on ad spend results. Yeah. And I think a lot of influencer agencies have been they've been growing based on the fact the industry is doing well. They've been riding the wave. It's great. And in the long term, for brands like, why am I not going to build an in-house team? Why would I use you? If you're not helping them hit their bottom line, if you're not helping them with performance, if you're not investing in tech and data analytics
You're gonna
or tools, yeah, you're going to lose them. And rightly so, because you kind of need to do better.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I find it kind of interesting because I've seen some people kind of do this where they're like, oh, they're concerned that like the tracking isn't working as well. And they do this a lot on podcasts. They give like unique codes or, on TikTok, they give unique codes. And then you can now, after the unique code, you can track it. And you have some trackers. So if I'm forwarding it to a friend,
Yeah.
I'm nice and the code.
It's interesting. So even the best clients, we have clients who have seamless customer journeys and they have trackable discount codes. When we do a halo effect analysis, that halo effect with these clients who they have custom microsites, everything is with the influencer's face on, everything is tailored. They still find a 40% minimum halo effect. So 40% of those sales are unattributed.
Wow.
So an extra 40. Imagine you are a luxury travel brand. Imagine you're a luxury handbag brand or something where it's a considered purchase. You're looking at over 100% of your sales not attributed and just huge halo effect.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I think brands also need to think about brand lift surveys, purchase lift surveys, looking at search traffic, literally doing analysis of the traffic's behavior on their site to try and see if influencer is having a disproportionate impact that is not being measured through discount code redemptions alone. And we worked with a brand and they were only measuring the impact of the coupon codes, right?
Oh,
We were looking at pixel data. So we used influence in paid ads as well. So we were looking at the data. Our data showed like 10% of the cost compared to the discount code redemptions. As in we were getting a cost per customer of $82. They thought if you look at it based on the discount code redemptions, it was $1,000. So there is a huge, and that again, a very smart brand in terms of conversion. That was insane. Yeah, 10x of the customers are being missed because you're looking at it through too narrow a lens. You're not looking at literally doing a site analysis of what the traffic's doing and who's converting and how.
Yeah, it's like the dark social, the dark traffic, which you can't really figure out. It's like I can't see it, but I know it's there in it.
And the weird thing is if you give your partner agency or if internally your data team or your analytics team has the time and knows this is happening, they can track it. They can track it much better. They can't track it perfectly, but they can track it better. And I think it's just where brands are so stretched and influencer teams also aren't often the most fluent in data, that they're being kind of set up to fail.
Right.
Um,
Interesting. And our last thing on this topic is it's just an interesting topic because it's one of those fields which I feel that over time it's going to get optimized in some way.
oh, like hope.
Yeah. And the last one on specifically on pricing is if you're in B2B and you're, software company like Microsoft or you're a smaller software company like a startup, and you're trying to think through, okay, I know my sales cycle is 4 months and I'm going to need to figure out um, the value that this campaign is producing um, in less than 4 months, or if it's 6 months, I want to figure it out in 3 months so that I'm not bumping 6 months worth of money into an influencer that's not working, and then 6 months later I find out actually it doesn't work. So how do you kind of talk to B2B and say, okay, look, we're not gonna know for sure
Yep.
until 6 months, but we can kind of use these proxies, or how do you kind of think it through?
Yeah, B2B is really interesting because B2B, in my perspective, is about really, really smart strategic thinking and strategic campaigns, because it's very, very rare there'll be one YouTube video, one LinkedIn post that makes the key decision maker and C-suite of a company convert. What you can do is use that content to get them bought into your email list, to get them bought into coming to an event, to get them signed up to speak something, so this is where I think, again, most influencer marketing agencies just think about, here's an ad asset or here's a piece of content. But actually what you need to do is think about the strategic journey. So if there was a B2B campaign we ran for a company called Fast Hosts, really weird. This is so weird. Okay. Fast Hosts are a cloud computing solution. They needed to reach only UK chief technology officers making these buying decisions. We said to them, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this just with influence. They were like, we are so confident if you get them on our email list, we can sell to them. It will take time, but we can sell to them. So we designed an entire campaign around how do you get these very specific people to also, who are very discerning about data and very discerning about track, how do you get them to feel like they're opting in and excited to be communicated to by the brand? So we created something called the techie test a couple of years ago. So we took interesting number file, geeky content creators, number file engineering channels. Tom's got people who produce content that's what would you know about the world, learning something new, who we thought would have a connection with the audience. And we had them create the techie test. And in 60 seconds of their YouTube video, they set their own question that was a technical question that they had created. And they said, if you are based in the UK and can answer this question, sign up through this email, give the right answer, and you win. I did it for 2 years. And the first year, the prize was tickets to South by Southwest.
Wow.
And the second year, the prize was a $7,000 dream work from home computer hospitality. The first year, we got 10,000 entries, which UK technical.
Wow.
I mean, really interesting.
That's really, really segmented, yeah.
Which turns out, though, these technical people are often socially introverted, so they didn't necessarily want to come to South by Southwest.
Oh, I see.
The next year, when we did the dream work from home setup, we got 40,000 email addresses, and the brand then did an analysis. They were like, those people who signed up to an email address, they opened at a higher rate the emails we sent them than our average consumers or anyone from other channels, and they were actually better quality than from paid. They were better quality than from our event signups. So it's so interesting. If you get it right, you can really encourage the right people to opt in and build this dream of fintech. But it takes so much strategic work, technical questions, setting up the sites, all this stuff. But it works. So I think you just need to be really smart with how you approach B2B. And that's where, again, a lot of influencer agencies, they will cut the costs of analytics, they will cut the costs of strategists, because they're vending machine. You put money in, you get creators out, they'll work with whoever is cheapest and quickest. We won't do that. It's about succeeding by being strategic.
Right. Yeah, that story is amazing, by the way. I love that story. It's a great one because it's unique and it brings so many things together, and it's just a cool story. So I liked it a lot.
The geeky. So it's so funny. People think of fashion and beauty when they think of influencer, and I'm like, no, give me a geeky remarch.
Yeah, but it also gives you the opportunity to do something unique, right? If you're doing, because probably like in e-commerce, it's been done so many times. Like there's only so many things you can do in fashion and brands because there's so much that's done. So to get like something really, really unique is hard. Whereas in this case, you're saying I'm gonna bring kind of creative thinking and do it in a field that doesn't have a lot of creative thinking. So now it's like really unique. And doing tests or contests or anything like that, we see that a lot with on our end. Like we have like outgrow contests that people build, and we've had outgrow contests for merch for sports for uh, NBA teams, football teams, and they're able to get a lot more information because they're running these campaigns. And now they figure out, oh, okay, I don't just know that you like our brand, but I know you like LeBron James.
Yeah.
Now, what you like specifically because of how you're answering and which contests you're entering. As you're opting in, now I know more about you. So it's kind of like, yeah,
And I think we're going to see that more in 2025. I think we're entering a time of like real economic uncertainty. We know the cost of living is going to go up. Inflation's going to increase. Tariffs mean increase prices.
Yeah.
So in that context, it is more important than ever for brands to cultivate brand loyalty. Because why, when someone has an alternative that is half the price, why would they choose you? And so I think we're going into a year where brands are really going to have to celebrate their consumers through rewarding them and through creating that loyalty. So brands are going to have to be smarter than ever in doing that in their marketing. It's like Taco Bell featuring their customers in the Super Bowl ad.
right.
And I think like, yeah, okay, Taco Bell's a sexy brand that has like access to that. But so do B2B brands. Like, how are you going to celebrate your consumers? How are you going to make them price inelastic to your product? And I think that's through smart strategic thinking that rewards a consumer for being hot. I mean,
It's cool. No, it's cool. It's cool. And everything.
we went deep there.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. We have a few more questions, and then we'll be done. So the next one is around, well, we kind of about your YouTube journey. I know you're in YouTube, and you've probably seen YouTube go from a small platform to what it is today, where it's a beast. How do you think through kind of YouTube's evolution? And do you cover everything from creator monetization to influencer marketing to whatever you think is interesting about YouTube's evolution?
Yeah. First, YouTube coming out to a decade ago, which makes me feel really old. And my job was to help creators grow their channels. And back then, YouTube was, it was short, it was long form video. That was it. And the thing I think they've kept really consistent and done really well is that creator monetization piece.
Right.
They have been consistently where creators can make great ad revenue and can build their business through ad revenue. Whereas I think Instagram and TikTok always kind of relied on brand deals as well,
Right.
which is fine. It's a great model. But I think we've seen a real shift in YouTube with, well, one, they've become so much more sophisticated as an ads platform. They're using AI for media buying. Like YouTube is for an ads pack that they're really evolving and they're looking at using creators in their ads. Secondly, they're doing a lot of short form content with YouTube Shorts. And I think for the user experience, sometimes that can be a little bit convoluted, but they are seeing really, really sticky user experience from YouTube Shorts, which is attracting creators from TikTok over to YouTube. And kind of also giving creators a way to make the most out of their platform. And I think thirdly, they're seeing a lot of mileage with podcasting, which again, like Spotify and YouTube both really went into video podcasting really quickly, really heavily. I think they've just said, isn't it like more than 1 billion monthly users to great us? It's quite a few. And I think that's amazing. But the thing I find interesting about that as someone who runs an influence marketing agency is the shift from podcasts where you could not click from listening to it in the audio straight through to a site. You'd have to maybe remember a code or remember messaging, and they're very saturated with ad content. Like do like 5 ad reads in a row and they're scripted, and I'm like, what is this? To at least from a YouTube video, a long form video, you can directly click to a site. So I think we're going to see far more brands getting into that space and looking at how do they, because it's so much more trackable. So I think that podcasting growth is really going to offer an avenue for a lot of brands to play with podcasting in a measurable way that they have.
Correct. Yeah. That's an interesting thing about podcasting, because I found that now, because you can skip 15 seconds forward on a podcast.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, everyone I see like skips the 15 seconds. They know, okay, it's going to be 2 minutes or 3 minutes of interview of ads, and each one's going to be 30 seconds or 25 seconds. So they just skip through it all. I'm like, wait, how many people paid for those ads and they're not getting any listens?
But I also think they're doing it in such, like, I'll be honest, How honest will I be?
Cram?
I'll be honest. I think a lot of the, again, podcasting agencies are literally just selling scripts, stack them high, sell them cheap. Do you get? Whereas the way we've been doing sponsored long form integrations in YouTube videos is there is a brand that really has to think about, they're the only sponsor for that video and they have to think about how it's relevant and think about how it plays in. Like for Surfshark, we have creators in shark costumes. Like we had someone who built a massive shark they could surf on. Like it went crazy.
Yeah.
And I think we've had people do animation, like that's, or comedy skits, like all of that content has to be tailored to that specific video. And I think that's where you see conversions because it's entertaining. I think when you've got these podcast agencies that like give 500 creators a script,
Yeah.
like so that's insane. Like they're doing no onboarding work, you're tailoring it, like no.
Real personalization. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's just the same thing for everyone. Yeah.
So of course people are skipping it because your creative is lazy. You deserve to have your ad skipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are going for the cheapest people. You're working with people who are putting no time into your partnership. They're literally basically mass emailing scripts. You deserve to fail. I'm sorry, that is creatively boring. Agency work is lazy. As a brand, do fucking better. So yeah, that's why I think podcasting has a lot of opportunity, but it's just
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's hard. Yeah. I think it's hard. But part of it's because of that. And the second part, as you said, is like if I'm on a drive to work, I'm not gonna like stop like on a red light or go find park and I'm gonna write down the name of this so it's just hard to do.
like
So people default to this. So I think that's another thing. But yeah, that makes YouTube interesting is that you can now, at least the people who are listening on YouTube, obviously the people listening on Spotify and drive to work, you're probably not going to get them on that conversion. You might get them on a second listen later on, but on that first listen, you're probably not getting that conversion. So
exactly.
that's interesting. The last thing I was going to mention was the identification and selection. You briefly mentioned it when you're trying to figure out, okay, I want to identify and select influencers. And do you kind of think, okay, we have a target audience in this country, and we're gonna and we're gonna only focus on TikTok or only do YouTube, or do you kind of think through it from a sense of like, we're just focused on the audience. Let's really drill down the audience, and then we're gonna find the people who focus on that audience, regardless of their platform, regardless of what they do.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways to do it, but both focus on audience first. So a brand will tell us who their target customer is, and we will either look at that demographics and we will find creators out. If we have a tool, a partner tool, we use Captivate actually as a partner sourcing tool that has data on millions of creators, and it will tell you who their audience is. So if a brand wants to reach men aged 30 to 35 in Utah, we can find out which creators reach that audience, and then we'll tailor the creative to them. The other thing you can do is if a brand is really sophisticated, often they think about it from a community perspective, like which communities do they want to speak with? So are our audience Dungeons and Dragons clients? Are they LeBron James? And then we can find creators who speak to that audience as well. And then the other thing we have is, so Digital Voice has built a proprietary AI tool called Composer that we use for planning. And it takes, because as I've mentioned, we have all this performance data for the last 8 years of campaigns. We know which creators drive sales. So we decided, and which creators have really highly engaged audiences. So we decided to take all that data and build with Google Vertex. And so we build a tool that helps us planning. So it will suggest which verticals work best, which platforms, which creators. And so then we kind of layer that over the top. And by the time we give a brand a list of creators to choose from, we explain why we're using them. We give them all their audience demos and we explain if they've converted well for a previous campaign. But it means we're making the smartest decisions with which creators to select and which approach to take, just so that we're maximizing brand's chance of performance success. I've wanted to build this for years. The AI wasn't there until last year. So I'm like, literally, the thing you had in your brain.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible though, yeah. And is there a way to kind of, so like some people they kind of will do a campaign and they're like, oh, this person usually has so many views. And then they found out that the people buy views, or like they kind of fake it some way. And so then they kind of, and then when you get your numbers, you're like, oh, usually if I'm getting this number of impressions, I'm getting this many clicks or whatever it might be. And then they realize for some creators that's not the case. And some people are saying maybe it's the wrong creator, and second is maybe those aren't real views. So how do you kind of manage where you think you're getting all these views, but then you realize those aren't legitimate?
Yeah, I think you can So this is the problem when brands try to get creators to guarantee a minimum number of views. We don't pass the guarantee requirements on to creators. For us, we guarantee it for the campaign as a whole based on our data. It's not in the creator contract because that incentivizes creators buying fake views. We don't want them to. It's also interesting, like you can see through the data through like the audience watch time. You can tell the engagement rate if it's fake. And also the demographics of those views. Like if you're at all curious to see if someone's lying, ask for the breakdown of the viewers for that individual video. Because if they're buying fake views, it will be from a country that is different to them.
Right.
Yeah, you don't buy 1 million fake views from America.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's really interesting as well. Like when we're often working with companies who are trying to push sales or lower funnel metric, we don't actually want more views. We want the creator's core audience to see the content because those are the ones who trust that creator enough to convert. So we've got a lot of data on like if a piece of content goes viral, does the sales number really increase? And the answer is no. Because you might know about a brand for a first time, but you don't trust that creator, you don't trust the brand. That's the people who are like, I skipped through it.
I see.
If you're a true loyal fan of that creator and you watch all their stuff, then you're like, oh, maybe I do want to buy those.
Yeah. Because I trust the person. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think don't put anything in a contract that would incentivize fake view buying because you're kind of asking to be lied to.
Yeah. He's like, I want 10,000 views. Like, I have 9,000. I'm going to add 1,000 because otherwise you're going to, yeah. So then you have this, you don't want to give them incentives to like,
Also, that
way around.
their control, like it's so unfair.
It's true.
They make the content if you're happy with the content.
Yeah.
That's a risk you take.
It's true. It is hard for them because at the end of the day, creators like, they don't know. Sometimes you've seen creators where they'll like change the title. They have the same exact video. They change the title and it like skyrockets their views.
Yeah.
But it's the same content.
Or just thumbnails.
Yeah, you use a minor thing and it's like everything changes. So it's like very hard to predict in advance. Yeah.
I think also if you give a creator a really scripted piece of content, or if you give them a really narrow idea that's very brand heavy, that isn't what their audience wants to watch, of course it won't perform well. So when we do onboarding calls with every single creator for a campaign, because we're like, what do your audience want to see? How would you recommend fitting these talking points in? Because that will make the content perform better. And again, if you're giving them a script that's like, I love Adobe Firefly.
Because it's excellent.
Yeah, because it is excellent. Thank you to Adobe. Like, no one's going to watch it. So, of course, it won't do well. So, you're asking to be lied to. And so, I just think, like,
Yeah.
have some empathy for the creator there.
That's interesting. Yeah. You got to do this. The harder route is the better route in this case. All right. So, last question. Any advice that you would give to, we have a lot of marketers on this podcast and they're trying to think through influencer marketing, influencer strategies. Some of them probably are, DMing influencers. Some of them are using platforms. What advice do you have for them?
Okay. I think often influencer marketers are hired and they're one person working for a company. And they are expected to do the strategy, the outreach, all the contracting, all the approvals. And they hire really smart, qualified influencer marketing people and then have them do admin. And that will minimize your ability to run exciting campaigns. It will minimize your ability to sell internally, to get more budget, to be strategic. So what I would do if I were an influencer marketer hired for a brand, I would do a couple of strategic tests to prove that influencer marketing works or helps them hit the 4 KPIs. And then I would use that to internally storytell and get an agency partner, or to hire junior people to do the work. And then you get to advocate as a strategic kind of educator internally. I think one of the biggest issues is you're asking an influencer marketing person to do like admin work and you're paying a high salary and then you're like, why aren't we seeing results? It's because you're burning out your own team. So anything you can do to make sure you are a strategic leader in terms of inside your organization will pay dividends to you in the future, because your job primarily is going to be education, because it's very rare that a CMO understands the power of influence marketing.
Dangerous.
And you need time to educate them and you need time to work with the CFO or the finance team to prove results. So as much as you can, do small strategic tests and then work on finding a way to scale those that does not take up all your time. Because you can very quickly fall into a trap. You're burning yourself out running these campaigns. You can onboard max 40 creators in a month, 40 contracts a month. That's a lot. That's a lot. If you're doing that, you're trapped in a cycle that you're going to lose it. And you will be probably the first person to go if there are layoffs. So you'll be out. And I think try and put yourself in a position where you're internally educating which makes a huge difference.
Interesting. Yeah, and then when you say doing tests, how do you recommend they kind of do the analytics, to make sure that the tests are actually what happened? Because as you mentioned, that you have sometimes where it's like 10x better than actually you think it is based on what you track. So how do you recommend they do that? Or
Yeah, you should not be doing any tests without a tool for sourcing creators, even if you borrow a friend's login. I don't if you have a friend who works at a bigger brand who has access to yours, I often have people message me like, "Hey, can you just send me a screenshot to check this person hasn't bought followers?" Like, make sure you either have a tool or you're using someone's tool to make sure you're accessing the right audiences. Because if the audience doesn't match your target customer, it's just not going to work. Um, and then also you can also, if you don't have access to those tools and your company is relying on influencer, basically not based on posting content, but based on producing content for you to run as paid ads, work really, really closely with your paid team to see what those results are. Because then you're seeing if your creative is better. It's not about the influencer's audience and how they act. It's about their assets working better in paid ads. So then use that test and make sure the paid ads team are targeting correctly, and make sure to see if they're outperforming brand produced assets, know it, and then learn while you're doubling down. Yeah, don't make sure you have budget to use a tool. Use a tool. There are some really cheap, effective ones out there. Or if you're using ads, just make sure you're looking at the data and making a case internally.
great, cool. So a lot of great advice there. I like the point about strategy and not spending time in admin work, because just going back and forth on a contract can be like a ton of admin work. And so just having that focus on, okay, what's the key strategy here, and making sure that you're spending time on that, and then you don't have to do the boilerplate same copy for same creative for every single person. So you get to do that better as well. That's great. Honestly, this was an amazing interview. We've covered a lot of things. Yeah.
We covered a lot of substance here, a lot of terms I didn't expect to take us. Great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot for coming, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.